Because waiting sometimes can feel like God is withholding. Sometimes it can feel like God is punishing. Sometimes it can feel like a lot of different things that aren't actually true about God. So your knowledge of God and your experience of God happen to be two different things. Oftentimes a waiting season is an invitation from the Lord to go deeper with him, to study the scriptures, to know who he is. And as you learn about who he is, you see over and over this reiteration that he is faithful to his word. In Numbers chapter 23, verse 19, it says, God is not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should change his mind. In Isaiah chapter 55, it says, my word will not return to me void, but will fulfill the purpose of which I set it out to achieve. So you see over and over again that God will do what he said he's going to do. But then you also read things in the word in Isaiah chapter 55, like my ways are not your ways and my thoughts are not your thoughts, meaning you also have to hold the tension of him fulfilling his word and not doing it the way you may think he's going to do it or how you want him to do it. You read stories like the woman with the issue of blood who went through the crowd, touched the hem of the garment and was healed instantly from a bleeding issue of 12 years. It can cause you to question whether you have enough faith for the thing that you're believing for. The biggest tension that we hold sometimes is that the emotional experience of waiting on God does not line up with the truth about who God is, because it doesn't feel good, but he is good. And believing that he is good sometimes through the tears, through the frustration, through all of it can be hard. You're crying yourself to sleep saying God is good. You're frustrated through your day saying God is good because your emotional experience is not lining up with the reality of who God is. Because God does not change based on our circumstances. God is who he is no matter what happens. But the emotional experience of waiting on him or walking with him can be tough. As you wait, you can go through the Bible and see people who waited on God for promises and use their faith and their example of faith to build your own. One of the examples that oftentimes people use is the story of Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in the fiery furnace. In Daniel chapter 3, the decree goes out from King Nebuchadnezzar that says everybody should worship the statue that he had set up for himself. Now Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego served our God faithfully, and they continued to serve our God faithfully even with the decree because they were not willing to worship other gods. They were caught, brought before the king, and the king gave them opportunity to bow before him and his statue. And they say one of the most famous verses in the Bible and one of my favorites. They say, King Nebuchadnezzar, we serve a God that can deliver us from the fiery furnace. But even if he does it, we will not bow. But I remember as I was waiting on God for things I wanted him to do, and I used that, even if he doesn't, I will not bow. Even if he doesn't, we will not bow. I realized my focus in that verse was about the thing. The focus was about whether or not he was going to do the thing I would still worship. But the focus for Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego was not about whether or not the fiery furnace was going to kill them. They did not care whether they died or they lived, whether a miracle performed or not. They actually cared about being faithful towards God. Their main priority was being found faithful. And I think that's what makes the waiting season so hard, is we start waiting on the thing instead of remaining faithful. Because if you focus on faithfulness, it's easy to wait. It's easy to be faithful to somebody that you love. It's easy to be faithful to somebody that you care about. And so why the waiting season can become so hard is because we start believing for the thing instead of communing with God as he works the thing out for our good. In Matthew chapter 6, the Lord kind of lists out things about prayer and fasting and shows how doing them in public can be for selfish gain and you'll be rewarded on earth. But he always says, but your Father who sees in secret will reward you. And I oftentimes think about that when I'm in the waiting season, because it's like, if my goal is to get a well done, good and faithful servant, then the waiting is about the faithfulness. It's not about the thing. So if I don't get the marriage, I will be found faithful. If I don't get the job, I will be found faithful. If I don't get the money, I will be found faithful. If I don't get the healing, I will be found faithful. It doesn't matter, because the main priority is being faithful. The main priority is not the miracle. It's about the faithfulness.